something lighthearted.
I know. We actually do all need that right about now.
It happened.
Can we just stay? Can we just stay on the cat for a bit longer, please? Please, we all need it. Oh.
I get why people retweet animals all the time now.
Cats are awesome. They're just the best.
I'm just super allergic to them.
Are you really?
Yeah.
That sucks.
My face blows up when I'm around them. I'm like, it's so fluffy.
Oh, I remember because when we were in Bahamas, they had all those like wild cats around the resort, and I'm like a cat magnet. Like they just surround me. So Admirable was just constantly backing off me. I later realized it was just because he hates me. It was nothing to do with the cats.
Yeah,
you know.
that's true. But I am super allergic.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to jump into game number 2 of this series. And this is Spectacular Sunday. So we have one more match after this 5th one for you. Stay tuned.
Shadows are rising again, darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. There surely scorching deserts, adventure monster of narcissism. Cosmetic annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave. Evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna save. Oh no!
My name is Rafael Pelzer. I go by Bunny Hopper in Hearthstone. I've always been a competitive kid. There's like always a little bit more to the game, right? You get tired of just playing at a certain level and you always just want a little bit more. You hit legend, you hit high legend, you hit rank 1 and you're like, let's go to the next level. Yeah, it means a lot to me to be in the Grandmasters program because it feels really great to be recognized, especially last year was going really well for me. I think what I look forward to the most in Grandmasters is just have this weekly schedule of competition that every week you can iterate your lineup. Every week you have another match against another good player instead of having these dry periods where you don't play any matches, any best of 5s, best of 3s. So my personal goals is firstly do well in Grandmasters, and secondly is I'm still trying to find a good job in chemical industry.
Is there some sort of X factor that sets you apart from everyone else?
I mean, I have a doctor, haha.
My real name is Jaromír Vyskočil, my in-game name is Jarla, and I'm playing for Team Nordawind. When I got the email about that I'm in Grandmasters, I was really happy because I have been in competitive Hearthstone for 2 years and few months, and this is something special, competing against the best players in Europe. I like control decks, and I always play really slow. Some people can hate that I really often end up roping the turn. Sometimes I also overthink stuff, so it sometimes could affect my decision in the end. But yeah, I'm mostly slow and control player. My hobbies outside of Hearthstone, I enjoy running, I enjoy playing football or ice hockey with friends. My goal for Grandmasters is probably avoid relegation, but I would like to win as well.
Spectacular Sunday on Hearthstone Grandmasters, and spectacular It has been 6 matches are lined up today, and we are amidst our 5th right now. Board Control with a 1-0 lead over Psycho. I'm Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora. I'm joined by Simon Sato Welch.
Hi.
And we're moving into a Priest Mirror for game number 2.
We've had our fair share of them, and if you've been watching, then you know the drill by now. If you haven't, then it really does come down to the early game. You want to be going first. At secondary, you want to have an inner fire available for a big tempo swing early on. Failing any of that, you just want big health buffs to land on your minions to prevent that coming through from the other side. But the matchup is generally decided very, very early on. It's rare that a swing happens in the state of the game beyond like turn 5, turn 6. I believe we've only seen that once in Europe, and that was from Bunny Hopper earlier in the week. Other than that, what you see is what you get. Gets decided early.
And it is very tough early on. You have a lot of min-maxing to do, and you have to pay attention to every point of damage and every single point of health. And that requires picture-perfect play. It is, if you are into aggro decks with micro decisions, this is your deck. If you are into not that sort of thing, buckle in.
If you're into winning, this is also your deck.
Ooh.
Is someone injured?
Yeah, it's good.
Cleric fights Cleric. Circle on the side of Psycho, which was fantastic for him until that Cleric appeared for ball control, but then all of a sudden it became a potential liability, but now the silence picked up as well.
So with Coin and with Wild Pyromancer and with Silence and with Circle Healing, you got some thinking to do. The first 2 turns are shorter as well. Turn timer's not as long.
Yeah.
You got to start your planning.
I mentioned this earlier, but personally I'm of the belief that Coin Pyro isn't the line against a Cleric start in this situation. People might come and correct me on that, but in my experience it is like just logically by the numbers as well, it just doesn't feel like it works out very often if you go down that. I think Psycho just kind of has a fairly significantly superior play available to him with that Cleric silence. That inner fire is pretty huge though. May I suggest a 5-5, Mr. Control? To Mr. and Mrs. Control, a son, Ball.
I wonder.
God, y'all are weird. That's not you and Boar, that's British people. Yeah, I said it.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Say everything so beautifully. Even when it's malarkey.
Oh, especially when it's malarkey.
It's my favorite kind of sody. I always have questions about Cleric. This is why I can't play this deck, is because of the mirror matches. I get so greedy, and all I visualize is drawing like 26 cards, and I'm like, oh yeah. Like, I feel like I'd rather just draw 20 cards and win the game sometimes.
Right.
That's just not the game plan here.
It's not.
Quickly.
You can see what a drastic difference playing and holding that Cleric meant for Psycho, though.
Yeah, the problem is if you don't play minions, the same thing just kind of happens and you're behind anyway, whereas you have the upside of this not happening if you play the Cleric and suddenly you're in control of the matchup.
If this happened, you'd still have the Silence and the Cleric in hand, right?
Oh, okay, so you weren't... Okay, I can get behind pass, kind of, as weird as that seems. But, like, silence the opposing Cleric, not play your Cleric. Like, that's a huge whiff at that point. But if you want to hold on to both, that we can talk about.
Yeah, why wouldn't you hold both?
It's just not what I thought you meant.
Yeah, because I wanted to combine the Northshire, the Pyro, the Circle, the Silence, all in the same turn.
Sure.
The problem is the runaway with the games, right? It gives your opponent a clean opening to play Neverset Ritualist.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Injured Tolvir.
Injured Tolvir, yes. Yep. Then without having the proactive development, if you're not containing the board, gives clear openings for Injured Blade Master.
Right.
Don't really want to circle that one, or the previous one that I mentioned. So there's a lot of... With every single decision in this deck, there are tons of pros and tons of cons.
There are, yeah. And it's why I always talk about, like, Circle of Healing is a blessing and a liability in the Priest Mirror. Like, you can use it to great effect. It's one of the strongest cards in the deck on your side of the board, but certain things on your opposing side of the board, Blade Masters, Tolvirs, Northshire Cleric, Light Warden, just make that card dead in your hand. So I think formulating a game plan that revolves around, you know, using a Circle of Healing to your benefit is always going to be a risky one.
I think Boar's about to have the runaway.
Positioning was important on the previous turn to give him maximum options for his Neverset Ritualist here.
This is just a freight train at this point.
Yep.
Use it now.
Yeah, I think Psycho's face is telling you that. A non-game one for him. And in this game, just board's got the goods. It's decided early on sometimes. You take a line, you take the risk. You get about one.
Psycho's gonna hunt, search, and scan, trying to find himself a way out of this over a couple of turns. I'm not sure I see the line. In fact, I am sure. I don't see the line. The line doesn't exist.
Take that much. Go.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Super dead.
You have been.
4 AoE with the Pyro, not going to be good enough. Just thinking about whether maybe Boar should have spread 7 health across more minions there, just in case it was just the ultimate Pyro hand, but it was super unlikely to have made a difference whatsoever.
Got beat.
Yep.
The only difference he could have made was holding the Cleric, which holding the Cleric has multiple other complications to it. It means Boar doesn't use the Inner Fire early on. It means that if an injured Tol'Vir or if an injured Blade Master comes down, you are now facing down your draw and clear turn, buffing your opponent's side of the board, which makes you vulnerable. You get extra cards, but you take extra damage in the meantime, and you give your opponent flexibility in board development. Pros and cons to both sides. It's tough to balance, and I don't think anyone has enough reps under their belt to say one way or the other is better right now. Maybe Psycho. I still like the Northshire Cleric. That's what I would have done. But you can see the risk that goes with it.
Yeah, I think the point I want to reiterate there as well is that any kind of long-term game plan that involves like, oh, I'm going to get sick value out of this Circle of Healing. Like, it's so dangerous against a Priest because they can disrupt Circle of Healing in the mirror way, way better than any other class can. So I think...
An Acolyte of Pain comes down.
Acolyte of Pain, yeah, anything. Any of the injured minions and like Light Warden, Nausea Cleric, like anything that comes down, Circle of Healing gets you into trouble. Acolyte of Pain plays around the Pyromancer. Like there's all kinds of madness that can go along with trying to formulate that game plan. I think that the repetitions have shown that just Cleric on one. It's just how you play the matchup. That's the nuts. That's how you go from there.
Boar's ready for an interview. Boar, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Indeed I can. Big win for you here to start setting yourself to get in position to get ahead in this field. Do you have any questions about the matchups or the games that we saw? That's usually the question I pitch, but my goodness, like those are just... I mean, what can I say?
It was a hell of a Priest mirror, wasn't it?
Yeah, talk to me about some of the highlights of the standout moments, some of the tough decisions you had in the matchup. Let's talk about your warrior build, though, because I do like your ban and pick phase of what's going on, of banning out opposing control warriors and then having that super anti-aggro one. How did you come up with that lineup?
Well, the warrior mainly designed that because you can not play a deck in this format. You can bring a deck that has like quite polarized matchups, and it's a bit odd. So I had the warrior, and I knew I was playing Pheno and Psycho, and they both like OTK pad. I was pretty certain Pheno would play it. So the idea was this was a snipe priest and OTK pad, and that happened against Pheno. I just never ended up queuing it. It just didn't pan out like that. And against then, my plan wasn't to queue it, but then the way the pick bans worked, I almost kind of YOLO'd it here into hoping he picked Priest, because I said the warrior was trash in my previous interview. I have always been picking Priest predictably, so I was trying to mix things up so I'm not so predictable in like future weeks as well. So I YOLO'd the warrior. I thought it was very unlikely to beat the shaman, but then nothing happened that game. I have to build like one big mech normally to win when I was practicing, and that's just hard to do because normally you're just behind on board, right? But then sometimes the shaman deck just does that, and warrior just wins. Yeah.
Did you ever have a concern playing that matchup that he might ever be able to fatigue you? Because we looked down.
He always fatigues me. Yeah.
We looked down at one point and we're like, oh, there's no Elysiana in this deck, right? Like Boar actually has to win the game, and like
I have to make a big mech and kill him. Yeah.
Right. Fair enough. I have to ask you. Obviously, I don't know if you watched what happened earlier with Pheno, but obviously he's a teammate of yours, a good friend. he was essentially pushing lethal and roped out because of client animation issues, I guess. We just had a very emotional moment on stream. But if you didn't watch it, I was just going to ask you whether, as a teammate, you had any thoughts on it. But I'm sure you will break it down later with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's always sad to see when people rope out on stream. It's tough. The animations get to you, especially when you're playing Priest. I've done it countless times on stream with Priest, where you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? You do the trade, you do circular feeling, and then suddenly it's like, draw one. And you're like, come on, with the cards. And sometimes, you just don't get there in time.
You have any questions for us?
Not really. I do have a. We're doing the call outs this week, right? Where we call out people, right?
Oh hell yeah!
Let's set the trend. Let's go. Yes.
Okay, so this person has been winning way too much in GM all the time. There's a problem with it. It's it's the card. It's way too good. It's Northshire Cleric. It's not actually a person. Maybe if this card was like, it says, is someone injured when it comes into play? But I'm playing on turn 1. Of course no one's injured. Like, it's a really stupid question that it always asks. I've heard the line far too many times. Maybe if it was like 5 or 6 mana, then someone would be injured when it came into play. And that might be like a good change, I was thinking.
It could be injured Northshire Cleric. It's a 1/3 that deals itself 3 damage when it enters play.
Oh, yeah,
and
maybe, yeah. And if someone's injured, I'm injured. There you go. Someone would always be injured if it damages itself.
I like how Boar's presenting the argument for nerfing Northshire Cleric from a flavor perspective, just seeing if that one finally gets the job done.
I'm down for it.
It's a good plan of attack.
Of course, that would just change the battle line of the entry when nothing's injured, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or you could just not be paying attention either. Someone injured? No? All right.
Yeah, the card just has no text then if no one's injured.
So let's talk about some of the stuff that you got coming up as well. I know you're doing some casting soon if you want to plug that stuff like you should be doing.
Yes. So coming up is the Battle Rift Finals. This was a tournament that took numerous months to qualify for. So players had to go into a ladder system. We know ladders are relevant nowadays, but this was a different third-party ladder system that they had to qualify for, playing Specialist. And the players have qualified. There's 16 players there. There's $20,000 on the line, and then as well there's qualification spots for Bucharest. All these players, you won't recognize them from the GM scene. Lots of the GMs didn't play in that. They were instead focusing on GM, I guess. These are all the grinders who weren't rewarded so much by the current system but can be rewarded by this. So I'd advise tuning in, supporting these third-party events. If you're a semi-pro player and you want to see more third-party events, supporting this one would be great.
Where can everyone find that at?
Yeah, so it'll be twitch.tv/TakeTV. Just check out my Twitter as well. The dates, the dates will be, I think it's the 18th and 19th is when it happens of September.
Well, Bor, I love that you're pushing it. I love to hear about it. I want more community support to be there as well. But I also want to see you keep winning because I love talking to you here on these interviews. Bor, thank you very much for your time. I'm looking forward to seeing you play next week.
All right, thank you. Have a good cast, guys.
8 out of 10 on the plug. He trailed off just a little bit towards the end. He was missing a few details.
You know what? Everyone's got to start somewhere. I was terrible at hosting, I think, at the beginning of Grandmasters even. I've come a little bit. I'd give myself a solid 6.5.
Okay.
It's decent.
Yeah, you can have a 7.
What more can you ask for, all right?
Yeah, it's very fair. I tell you what more you can ask for. You can ask for a whole entire 6th match on a day of Hearthstone Grandmasters, Admirable.
Well, that's exactly what I'm asking for. Oh, it's here, Yarla.
See that transition?
Take it on Bunny Hopper.
You peep that transition?
Woo! So good. Control Warrior banned away from Bunny Hopper's side. That little Divine Shield icon, that's the class they protected prior to the match. It's ineligible to be banned away. And so from Yarla's side, he's had his Quest Druid banned away. And you can see the protects on both sides, of course, being Priest. Priest is absurd. So now, for the kicker in the match, though, is that Yarla's Warrior is actually Bomb Warrior coming into this week. And he said in his interview yesterday that he wasn't quite happy with his list, that it didn't really hit the mark that he was looking for in terms of his planning. But his play on it has looked pretty spectacular, and pretty much everywhere else it's been that way as well. He had a pretty rough start in Season 1, but here he's looking to take the lead in the division if he can defeat Bunny Hopper.
And that's important, and I'm glad that we have it, because we have had an emotional roller coaster of a day as we've got through that series with Swids and then the one with Fino, where it was really the grim spectre of relegation. You've established this as canon now. You've repeated it so many times that I just kind of have to run with it at this point. But now we get to refocus on the thing that makes people happy, which is people fighting for the top of the group, fighting for those playoff spots. And Yarla and Bunny Hopper are doing so in one of the most competitive fields of Hearthstone players that we've ever seen. It's a small group, it's a division of 8 players, but that 8 players that are in this division are all incredible. Yarla and Bunny Hopper are currently tied at the top with a record of 4 and 1 each. Winner of this one goes clear. And
Bunny Hopper has demonstrated this for quite some time now, that he's been pretty deserving of those top spots. In Season 1, he had a pretty spectacular record as he was approaching like in the middle and late stages of the season. He had 2 championship appearances under his belt, including a win in 2018, and he made it to the top 4 at the World Championship, where he was only bested by his friend and practice partner, who made it to the Grand Finals in Viper. And this is like a stacked resume that he's built up, all while pursuing a PhD, finalizing that PhD that he's achieved. And that is enormous. Like, I don't know where he finds the time with this. Just plug himself into the wall and charge back up again?
Apparently, yeah. And his PhD, by the way, like, I've heard the title of his thesis, and I still don't know what it's about.
TLDR biochemistry.
Yeah, right. So yeah, he is an incredibly, incredibly smart person, and he is now perhaps scarier than ever because he has this ability to now be full-time in Hearthstone for at least some period while he's scrapping away in Grandmasters, and that's never been the case before. All those things Admirable described, this man did as a part-timer while he was completing his thesis.
And nothing too fancy that's going on in the lineup. The Druid one is really where I have my eye on it, where the Floop's Glorious Gloop and the Bee's Inclusion are helped to activate that, at least the Enlightened, as you move through the game. A couple of tools that I feel are suboptimal for the case, but they get the job done when you're trying to activate Elise, because that's a setup that oftentimes requires you to have time to do it. And if you're stuck trying to just draw those last couple of cards and set things up, you can get buried deep into fatigue as those endgames approach. But in this matchup, having any extra tools that can fight for board, I think is a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely. So we're going to see a departure. We've been primarily seeing the Priest be played out in mirrors across quite a few of the regions, certainly Americas and Europe. But this time, Yarla gets to face down the Druid, and that card that he hangs onto there, High Priest Ahmet, that is the absolute boy in the matchup.
The juice. Bunny Hopper, in the last day or so, he apologized for not having his camera up. He had just moved to a new town in Norway, and he was unsure of the internet capacity while he's playing the game. So
okay.
He issued an apology on Twitter for that. And you know what? I'll accept your apology, but I haven't forgiven you yet, because I love seeing his emotions when crazy stuff starts happening.
So he's worried that the webcam broadcast is going to take up too much bandwidth on his internet tubes, and then he's going to disconnect from the game or something like that?
He posted a picture on Twitter of where it is, and it looks like a place where, you know, I might be a little bit skeptical about that as well.
All right, fair enough.
Lovely looking place, though.
Fair enough. All of Norway is stunning.
That's why I'm highlighting this place in particular.
Okay, yeah,
it feels like it goes above and beyond the call of even that.
Okay, fair enough.
Quickly.
Every time I have coin with Ahmet in this matchup, I just want to wait, and I want to wait, and I don't know if I should. Decide for me, Yarla.
I think it's very reasonable here, honestly. I think you would very often one-drop coin extra arms, for example, if that were your hand, because that just beats up a Druid incredibly effectively and they don't really have counterplay against it. But I think with this hand, it's fairly slow going coin 2 into 2 anyway. It's not like an enormous blowout. So I think holding onto coin makes a lot of sense here.
Always holding from now on.
With every hand. Context be damned.
What?
Specifically when I have Ahmet.
It's a mighty fine-looking keeper of the grove.
Time waits for no one.
Do you ever get baited into a silence effect in this matchup? I don't think so, right?
So when the quest is active, it deals the 2 damage and then it silences, which is what I hate about it.
Yeah, in the bad order. I think like the card quality of the other 2 cards, Oasis Surger in particular, are just so much. No, Bunny Hopper does surprise me. Wow, all right.
Wow, okay.
I've got more left in me.
Hard pass, hard pass.
I'm curious about that that keeper.
I am too. I think it would have been on Oasis Surger. Obviously, I get the point. If a keeper at the Grove in the matchup, silence effect against Priest, like it just makes sense. but it's just such a low quality card in comparison to Oasis Surger.
Speaks volumes for how important he believes having an insurance plan is.
Yep.
Yeah, because it just feels to me like Oasis Surger's kind of doing the same thing. It silences it mostly just by killing whatever it attacks.
Right. It's hard to make too much noise when you're dead.
Yeah, but if you face down like a Circle of Healing into Divine Spirit, Oasis Surger doesn't kill that.
Yeah. It also doesn't kill Ahmet on curve, which
doesn't shut down Psychopops.
Yeah, Keeper of the Grove is able to do. So I think against this hand, you know, Yala's sitting holding onto a coin. Maybe Bunny is just suspecting that there is an Ahmet in hand. He sees the card be kept and it hasn't been played so far. Maybe he's just looking at Yala's hand and saying, well, he kept one card. He has coin still. If he coins Ahmet, I need to be able to deal with that. And Oasis Surger doesn't do that job. Keeper of the Grove absolutely does.
Especially not behind a taunt.
Yep.
I think this coin Ahmet will take Bunny Hopper off of quest progress sometimes as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%. This is getting silenced.
What if he just bees it?
What if you just bees it? That's a good question. End up with a 2-3... Oh, the Nephesset Ritualist. No. Oh.
Okay, so cover Yarla's hand. Covers Yarla's hand real quick.
All right, I've covered the hand.
Okay, now...
Oh, what if he has a Nephesset Ritualist?
Ah, well, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, the Nephesset Ritualist is pretty brutal,
right?
That
is a good point.
That's a tough spot. I have no idea. It just admittedly, I would be in a different spot. I would have an Oasis Surger.
Yeah, and you would be dead. I would too. I'm not defending it. I only saw the point of this way after the fact. I would have taken the Oasis Surger and been dead to this too.
He's probably just going to end up being dead anyway.
I mean
this is
it's Priest versus Druid. Like,
gracious,
what do you want?
Is so good.
I wonder.
It's not even like busted good. It's just like you drew some good cards.
Yeah.
You're fighting against Druid. They don't really get active.
Yeah.
You have to be active against Priest if you want to best them.
Trade Cleric, Ritualist.
Is
Go from there.
Injured?
Find yourself an Inner Fire to end the game with.
Use it now.
Or more health buffs so you can just do it immediately with the Topsy-Turvy, but he does pick up the Inner Fire now.
Sidekick is beaming.
Quickly.
Kind of into hitting him for 6. Take him down to 21. You represent lethal on board just with the Divine Spirit you have and the Topsy-Turvy.
Smart.
Yeah. That's the line. Your opponent's still neutered because they just haven't completed their quest yet. Like, I think this is just an almost secure lethal setup. You even have the silence for just a 5-mana plop to Nubisat Defender. Yeah, Inner Fire was the line.
Checkmate.
Yep. Quick game 1. Not something that you would really predict to see out of Yala and Bunny Hopper, who I think, if we assessed the APM of the players in this tournament, these would be our 2 slowest players, at least in the Europe region. But a very, very quick game 1. Priest will do that to you.
Just so weird that an Oasis Snapjaw is going to end up getting there this game.
Yeah.
Waits for no one.
Can Bunny survive just by, like, beezing the 2/7 now? If he bees the 2/7, isn't he alive? Yes.
Imagine predicting that.
No, I know. I'm just
Nobody's
saying.
that bad
I'm just
or
saying.
that good.
I know. I'm just saying we should do the due diligence because we're sat here saying like, oh, he's 100% dead. No, he wasn't 100% dead. There was a play.
Hey, I got you, friend.
We didn't say this turn.
Yeah, fair enough. I think even then the Beaming Psychic has him covered as well. I was just looking at Divine Spirit in a fire. Either way, game 1 over to Jarla.
Even maximizes the damage. Wait, did he? He could have gone. Oh yeah, he did. Attacked everything. Jarla's just got clean play. Like even amidst the like devastation that took place in that one, he's like, let me make sure I deal the most damage possible.
Yeah.
On this iteration.
And I mean, even on the previous turn, it's very easy there to lower your win percentage by a few points by playing the Beaming Psychic instead. Like the Inner Fire was a great spot just to set up the secure lethal on the following turn.
Yeah, just pushed 8.
Yep.
It's a lot of damage for one mana.
Huge damage.
Indeed. So that's going to bring us to a break here on that one. Not really too much to talk about. Bunny got blown up. So, as we head to break, when we come back, it's our 6th and final match that's taking place here on Spectacular Sunday. Jarla's up a game. Bunny Hopper's trying to claw back. Stay tuned.
The shadows are rising again, darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. They're surely scorching deserts, adventure, monster of narcissism. High stakes think annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave. Evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna save. Oh no!
Hello, my name is Kong Shu. My handle is Strifecrow. I think my original name was just like Strife. I think I just stole it from someone else that I saw online at the time when I was like 10. One of my favorite esports memory, it was like a dream hack. I ended up having like this like epic, like I don't even know how long this game against Glinto eventually beat me in that game, but I kind of brought the mage to the tournament, not as like, say I thought it was like the best thing ever, but because I just wanted to like show people I could destroy everyone with my kind of like troll deck. The thing I'm most looking forward to in Grandmasters is kind of the dynamic, because I've never really had this like league kind of dynamic in the past. You have 2 matchups a week, and you can kind of like target them. You know, you can start making spreadsheets, see what they play, see what decks are good against the decks that they play. You can even kind of play some mind games like that. I think my play is unique in the sense that I'm very like technical. I don't play a lot on intuition as much. Like I really like to have my thoughts and game plans planned out and go from there. My personal goals this year is kind of to get back into Hearthstone. Because I took such a long break, I feel like I'm finally refreshed and ready to go. So it's one thing I'm just looking forward to get like that motivation back.
My name is Eddie Liu, formerly Sehun628. Now it's just Eddie plain. My last year I had pretty successful year, especially since I only played this game for 2 years. I won DreamHack Atlanta. It's only a tour stall, but it meant a lot to me, especially since I was grinding really, really hard for a win. When I first knew that, like I received the email that I got into Grandmaster, I was really excited. I checked my email at like 10:30, and I was like hyped. I was like, oh my God, is this actually real? I think I'm a very consistent player. I think the X factor for myself is that I hate playing aggro decks, I would say. I'm a very control/anti-control player. I rather outgrind my opponent in resources. I constantly judge myself, oh, is this right? Is what I'm doing correct? And it means a lot. It means a lot to me that if other people are agreeing what I do and what I think. At this point, I just want to make Worlds. I had a pretty good record in tour stop. I think I was at least top 10, if not top 5. I think I was lucky. I think this group is the easier group, and I think I have a good chance getting out of groups.
Spectacular Sunday on Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe, and we are amidst our 6th bonus match.
Bonus match.
As I'm going to call it. I'm Nathan, that's Admiral Zamora. I'm joined by Simon Sottle Welch. Sottle, how are you enjoying our bonus match?
I'm enjoying it more with you saying it like that. I have to say, that's really adding to my experience. But it's been, so far, it's just been a priest blowout. But now we're going to get into some real meat of a matchup that I'm very interested in. Now, can I call it hotly contested this time without upsetting you? Is that?
I just didn't know what you meant. I wanted clarity.
Pre-warning, I'm going to do it again, okay?
What are you going to do again?
It's a hotly contested matchup between Druid and Paladin. We were even having some debates in the break then between ourselves and our producer Abar, who is also a strong player, has qualified for championship events in the past, about how this matchup goes. Abar says he has a lot of success going for the heal plan, but I know we've spoken to Ball Control, and Ball Control says that over 40-plus games, he's only had that work against him twice from the Druid side. But then if you go back to the series earlier with Casey, we think there might have been an opportunity for Casey to have, with his double Innovate, double Hidden Oasis hand, to be able to dupe those up and start healing like mad. We don't know. We are waiting to find out more and more about this matchup as the players get better and better at it and dig deeper and deeper into it. We'll see how this one's going to play out.
It's a tough matchup. It requires a lot of reps to fully understand what you're capable of.
Yep.
Talking about the list from Jarla, he is running with Zephyrus, but he has something that's a little unusual, which is the 2 copies of True Silver Champion that are included in the deck. Oftentimes, that card has found its way to 1 copy to help activate your Zephyrus earlier on. I mean, we have a number of times we've seen 2 True Silvers buried at the bottom of the deck. It's happened, I believe, twice out of the 3 times I've seen this list played in Grandmasters. That's obviously very unusual, but stuff like that matters. Like being able to steal a game here and there due to a slight percentage, that could be the difference between having a season that makes playoffs and not.
Absolutely.
And so the fact that that's come into play at times, it's quite bizarre to think about, but every little edge matters. And so I want to take those times to point that out because you don't often see it come to fruition. When it comes to fruition, that's a spectacular thing that ends up happening in that case. And so for Jarla, I'm curious to see how this gets piloted against Bunny Hopper and vice versa because, you are right on hotly contested. Just didn't really know by whom. I'm very much in the camp that it is Paladin favored, but that with the right hands, and it doesn't take much to change that hand, that Druid can absolutely have some great game plans against the double Holy Wrath package.
Okay. Yeah, usually I would get on my soapbox about 2 ofs in decks, but I think Zephyrus is absolutely a special circumstance in that case, where if you're playing a Zephyrus deck that isn't, for example, Rogue with Myras, where that's your whole game plan, you have to start thinking about trimming some of the fat away so that you have a higher percentage of getting Zephyrus active early in the deck.
Yeah, looking for redundant effects rather than the same effect.
Right. Which is why we've seen like 1 Subdue come into Paladin to go alongside like 1 Shrink Ray, 1 Equality, for example, having those 3 effects as redundancy for each other.
Partially fills the role of that Equality, and that's where that second True Silver normally goes.
Yep.
I've played with both versions. I personally like the True Silver version, as you can have guessed if you've ever heard me talk about damage in Hearthstone.
Ooh, okay, Jarla has just about everything he's looking for now. I was going to say he has a decent start, but any start that doesn't involve a Christology, you have to ask questions about. But now the Christology has been found, Jarla is going to have a very, very fast draw. I think Fino had one of the fastest draws we've seen from Paladin so far in this tournament, where he was down to his last few cards on turn 8 or turn 9, I believe.
This is a really interesting point of the game to me, too, where I feel like Jarla might be justified in foregoing mana efficiency here. If he plays Acolyte of Pain, that'll very often be a Wrath target for Bunny Hopper. If he plays Wild Pyromancer, that might not be the case. Now, I think Bunny Hopper is a player who's smart enough to sniff out that kind of play and go, wait a minute, this has got to be an Acolyte Christology setup. At the very least, I'm just going to take extra damage if I don't clear it off. But I think a Wild Pyro into an Acolyte Christology is the real consideration for Jarla here.
What about if you rip the Christology and put the Novice Engineer, and if you whiff, you get like Crystal Smith Kangor and use that to fill out your mana instead?
That's the standard option, right? Okay. I think the Jarl is the player who will constantly hunt for alternatives.
Okay. He's running out of time to be able to react to the draw state here, and he is just going to drop Acolyte of Pain. Which I would argue Acolyte of Pain would be like the standard option here. It's a card in your hand that costs 3, and you drop it on turn 3. And Christology is digging a little deeper than that, and Wild Pyromancer is digging even further.
There's two upsides to the Acolyte, though, that I didn't really think about, which is, number one, if Bunny Hopper does not have a Wrath, what that means is you get to have a pop-off turn.
Yep.
Number two is, if Bunny Hopper has the choice between Crystal Merchant and something and the Wrath, like, you're absolutely pulling him off the Crystal Merchant at that point, it seems like.
Yeah, makes sense.
Even if there isn't a Wrath, I think the Acolyte pulls him off the Crystal Merchant.
Maybe.
Just a bump and free cards? Like, that's the most dangerous thing you can give to Paladin.
Yeah, but I think also, like, if we're talking about, you know, Druid needing to get through their deck to be able to find their options and be able to duplicate stuff, like, their card draw is almost equally important. You saw Bunny keep a Nourish, which I think indicates that kind of thinking as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Nourish is insane, too. Helps.
Yeah.
The downside to the Acolyte first would be sometimes you draw the one-attack minions.
Yep, also true. I think there's always enough of them in the deck at this point that he's going to get value.
It's just one of the few decks that actually, like, utilizes deck thinning, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's a concept that we talk about a lot. One that's very, very rarely relevant. Usually just digging through the deck is the important part.
Right.
It's a cool early game. Pretty rare you get that much from this matchup.
Yala debating how much utility he might need to get out of Blood Mage Thalanos this game. It is a fairly useful card in combination with Consecration and Hammer of Wrath if you need to go down that route where you're facing down aggression and you need to fight back against it.
Yeah, Yarla will always end up taking his time because he's planning out hand sizing stuff as well.
Yep.
Kind of a nod to what this is. You favor the damage as well. Chipping away is not irrelevant. So for Bunny, that Innervade represents a pretty massive turn that's possible. Although we did just talk about the importance of having the endgame healing plan. That requires you to have at least one Innervade in hand.
Well, not necessarily, right? It depends what you're going to end up duping. You can end up duping a bunch of Ferocious Howls, which are much cheaper for similar effect, and just go like freaking Hidden Oasis Ferocious Howl back to back on two turns. And
yeah, I like the armor plan as well.
Yeah,
I did technically specify healing, so this is our semantics debate for the day.
Sure.
Nothing like a nice fine glass of semantics with Saddle.
Time waits for no one.
I think if anything like that, Innervate might come in useful with the Nourish in given turns anyway, if he doesn't want to Oasis Surger immediately after quest completion. I'd be surprised to see it used here. I'd be surprised to see Swipe used here, so I think it's just Crystal Merchant. Say go.
Behold, jewels of the sun.
Oh, he's going to use it. All right.
Represents the pressure point plan.
That turn passed on a really weird cadence, and I thought that it just hadn't used the Innervate.
It's the Eternal Rope!
Yeah.
Legend has it the rope is burning to this day. Oh, it is. There we go. No check on the Crystal Merchant, but your major thought is Oasis Surger, so I don't think you mind.
Right.
Innervated a hero power. Yeah. So, it just feels weird.
Everything about the early game of Quest Druid feels weird.
You're saving up mana.
Yeah.
Mana saved is a mana earned. Wait a minute, that's not the case at all.
A mana in the bush is worth 2 in the hand?
I've still never understood that idiom.
No, I don't know what it means.
I guess to be fair, TJ and I have never understood idioms.
No, you made that abundantly clear.
Yarla next turn is going to be facing some hand size issues.
Yeah, I think True Silver is really the card he needed to have picked up by now. We've talked about that double True Silver being buried over and over again, but having a True Silver just to start hacking away at these Oasis Surges that are going to come down, or even the Crystal Merchant if that's where his head's at.
Yeah, I think these are some pretty critical turns here for Bunny Hopper as well. It's pressure the turn 6, be able to follow up on the turn 7 and make it awkward as well.
Yeah.
A lot of times, not having pressure. Wait, what? Oh, it's just the Crystal Merchant.
Ooh.
Okay. I was super confused for a second.
So yeah, no True Silver. Kangor's is, or Kangor I should say, is a little bit of security with these flashlights in hand that he can take a bit of a beating and still be able to recover.
Yes, what do you dump? What do you get rid of?
Good question.
Perhaps you take a draw. See if you find a True Silver.
2 True Silvers in 14. Otherwise, you could maybe just consider shrink raying this board. It's not like there's going to be a Cenarius coming down in your near future.
Yeah. The thing I always have trouble with shrink raying is like, just what do you do on turn 7 then? Like the 5-2, that's the turn, right?
Sure.
It's the only way I've found use out of Paladin turn 7 is a 5-mana card and a 2-mana card. And outside of that, I'm always like, oh, Josh. Softening up for Consecration, it looks like. High Priest the call, that's the way you can make use of turn 7.
Yeah, slightly less effective when you've just used those 2 flash of lights back-to-back on turn 6, though. Still just a 3-4 that you can get into play.
It's a nice setup, though. I mean, the Consecration
nice
plus the High Priest.
Yeah. Kind of achieves similar things to what the Shrink Ray does, except you take a bit of a beating in the meantime. But you save a Shrink Ray, which can save you from a beating later.
Curious to see how interested Bunny Hopper is in ignoring this 3-1 as well. My guess is not too interested, but...
If he's playing an Anubisath, he just can't ignore it, right? I mean, he can. It would be a legal Hearthstone play.
Nah, I'm pretty sure it's illegal.
Okay.
But then what do you ignore it with as well? Like, do you keep the Crystal Merchant and draw a card?
What do you ignore it with?
That's what I mean. Like, do you keep the Crystal Merchant and draw the card?
Yeah.
Or do you get rid of the 5-2?
Give up 5 damage.
Oh!
Yeah, it's ugly.
I love dealing damage and I love drawing cards. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Boy, that is an ugly trade for Bunny. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, no way.
So yeah, I'm just going to give that one a hard nope. So Consecration to Call. It's my first instinct. Is it that simple?
My instinct moved over to Shrink Ray Kangors. Kangor. Why do I call it Kangors? I guess it's that Paladin card.
I just did that like at the start as well. And then
I think I've done it the whole time.
I got told on good authority, by the way, that we've both been saying Questing Adventurer today. So not only were did you relapse, you also infected me.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think you didn't corrected me. That's your job.
You word so good.
You had one job. Correct me.
I did, yeah.
Analyst.
Genuinely, that was the brief I received when they decided to put us two together. So yeah, just keep an eye on Admirable, will you?
Yeah, Yarlo is much more in favor of utilizing the turn 7 to its fullest extent, which means a bit of pressure to tack on.
Yeah. I think that Crystal Smith Kangor stack... Did it again. Crystal Smith Kangor can still get some reasonable value later on when there are those 2 True Silvers, which, once again, 2 True Silvers still in the deck. Does
Also,
seem to be the story.
Mana expenditure considerations. Draw Novice Engineer, you get to 2/2 and 4 next turn.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I wonder...
Look out! But he needed to make the hand space prior to this nourish.
Time waits for no one.
Interesting.
Behold,
That's one of the first times we've seen Floop just used on that card.
Right. It goes to show how Bunny is kind of desperate for some pressure right now. They're a very slow draw in terms of development. Most of that is just a lack of scenarios. So that is a huge card in terms of representing pressure against Paladin single-handedly.
Ooh, this is tough. You don't want to use the Wild Pyro because you want it for the Shrink Ray. You do want to use the Wild Pyro because you want to kill something in board. But you want the hammer to go face. So I think about that.
I hope you like that.
That's a true silver, and that is an active Zephyrus. That was the last card remaining. I was sat in silence there, just checking the deck list, and it was down to just true silver.
So how does that change things now?
Yala just commits the Kangor. Bunny now, Ferocious Howl, double hidden Oasis in hand, Elise not yet active, 9 cards remaining.
Yeah, I was thinking swipes this turn's made some sense, or at least one of them.
Yeah, one of them for sure.
My thought on it was lead Wrath.
And then potentially double, depending on what this draw is.
Yeah, you might be on Starfall. I'm on double swipe now.
1 card late.
Start emptying the hand to set up for the Elise. Set up the damage for the Cenarius push.
Push 12. Put your opponent to 7.
Yeah. Definitely worth taking your time on, though.
Time waits for no one.
Just not seeing much else efficient, it feels like.
Right.
Like maybe a Ferocious Howl and a swipe so you don't feel pressured to get outside the range of life total, but... Interesting. 6-6 is pretty awkward. I mean, he has seen Consecration go down. You get a card draw this way as well. Specifically, I'm referencing Consecration because, you know, with 2 True Silvers in the deck, Bunny Hopper's expecting that card to show up pretty soon.
Yala's last 7 cards are a little bit slow. He does have a Christology left in there, but he's running or possibly completely run out of cards to draw with it. Yeah. Yep. Then on top of that, he has the Shivala itself. He has the second Baleful Banker.
Second Holy Wrath. Second Prismatic Lens.
That's the 1 card. That's the one like big cycle tool that he has left in there. The rest of them are fairly slow.
Because he has the Holy Wrath, though, it's like there's a much greater risk to that Prismatic Lens with the Shivala still there.
Yep.
I must move quickly.
So although it might look like he's only a couple of turns away with the amount of card draw that Paladins usually power through their last couple of turns, he's actually a fair few. See a timeout this turn? Yeah. Okay.
Reporting for duty.
Yala does have a win condition being set up for himself, but the problem is he needs more turns than you might expect to be able to execute it. He's kind of meandering towards the finish line rather than charging towards it.
What to do?
Don't really need to dupe him if you're just far out of range. That's 10 armor.
That's active. Zephyrus and Elise, both active now. Does Bunny want to ooze this True Silver with the Zephyrus? That's what we saw Casey going for in the previous series. Possibilities for Bunny here.
Maybe you want to Harrison it.
Sure.
He even offers Harrison here. Ooze, interesting. He used to just always give me Harrison when I had 5 mana.
They will burn a card there, I think, is its concern.
I bet that's exactly what it's thinking about.
Yeah. Alright, it's got to be clear time. Which clear is he going to choose to use?
Yeah, I mean... With the Wild Pyro, it's just not looking very good. Just have 3 mana hanging out afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, is this ever like timeout, set another True Silver?
Yeah, just run it back from the last turn. So I think that's important, right? He wants to have those True Silvers equipped so that they're dealing damage and swinging through when he makes the big clear that clears the taunts out of the way.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
It's just these final 6 cards.
Move quickly.
Golly, it's so
Let
tough.
me think.
Because you're thinking about, like, where's the rest of this time going to come from as well?
Right,
like,
exactly. It's the problem with like there being very little card draw in the bottom is that he needs to find so many turns to get out of this position.
Yeah.
I do think this is the best chance he has right now, though.
Reporting for duty.
What does Bunny do? Like, you got to get a card out of your hand.
Yep. You can see, like, just it's very simple. Bunny already at 40, so Yala knows he needs some True Silver damage to go through, because with Bunny at 40, if the True Silver doesn't connect, the first Holy Wrath takes him down to 15, and then the Hidden Oasis takes him back up to 27, which, yes, okay, you can have that covered with Zephyrus Soulfire out, but you really don't want the margin to be that fine when you're trying to end the game.
That doesn't even factor in the kickers either. Second Howl shows up. If you have pressure against you and you have to expend your mana differently, there are no timeouts left, so you don't get that first Holy Wrath turn with security.
Right.
I think that's what Bunny's trying to set up too, is to make sure that going into the later stages, he can make his best shot to force Zephyrus into a I have to twisting nether kind of turn. Oh, look at that. Because that only kills the Crystal Merchant. It doesn't touch the rest of your board. It's too damage to all enemy minions.
Choose a minion, but then the damage specifies enemy, or the AoE damage specifies enemy. Yeah, Bunny Hopper just making sure space is clear in his hand so that he can dupe as effectively as possible.
Also just didn't want to draw from the Crystal Merchant, I don't think. You can always just, because you could just use the gloop to do that, right?
I don't know about that. There is a Ferocious Howl still in there.
Can you just kill one of your 3/2s then?
Yeah, maybe. I guess he does specifically not want to draw.
I wonder. I must move quickly.
Oh, you can't use the Zephyrus right yet. You can't use it yet. Like, you have to try and hang on, I think.
Uses the expensive clear so he has mana flexibility later if he needs that pyro quality. Concentration gets cast, so he gets that 2 damage in, which can end up being vital as well.
Yep.
So yeah, again, Bunny just needs cards out of hand. feel like Yarla hasn't drawn a card in like 20 minutes. Like, genuinely, like it feels like he's been stuck at this point.
Yeah, it's not just as simple as Hidden Oasis, it's the timing of the back-to-back punches with them. So I do agree you take Hidden Oasis here,
Yeah.
but it's those back-to-back hits that you're trying to avoid.
Right.
25 hits you hard, knocks you down so low that restoring 12 health just isn't enough. That's the idea behind the back-to-back hits in the Holy Wrath.
Yep.
That's why it's so hard to heal outside of range of this.